leaking top insider stock trades every day until they stop us, September 24th. Blink Charging is losing a ton of money and the revenue is decreasing year over year. But in the September 9th video, we found an insider who averaged 50% 3-month returns buying the stock. And anytime an insider with a good track record buys the stock, you have to pay attention no matter how crappy the business is. And in this case, the stock is already up over 50% since then. Unfortunately, today we didn't really find any good purchases by insiders with a track record of success, but we did find a director at Biodesic buying $2.6 million of the stock over the last 3 weeks in 3 different purchases. The stock is down over 70% in the last year, but it started to turn around in the last 3 months and is now up over 50% in the last 3 months. They recently launched a new sales force at the end of June that they hope will drive revenue, and they're shooting for adjusted EBITDA profitability in Q4 driven by this new sales force. If that works out, obviously that would be a big positive for the stock, and it seems like that director is betting on that plan working out. They also have an ongoing clinical trial that they started in July that will run for a year. I didn't really find any other interesting insider trades today, so maybe I'll share a couple other trades that I looked at that you might have seen and explain why they're not interesting. I'll start with Canopy Growth, which is a weed stock where the CEO just bought $50,000 of the stock. Now, before we had actually mentioned Tilray as a weed stock because of the whole Trump potentially reclassifying weed stocks being a big positive, and Tilray went up over 100%. Now, obviously, if that happens, that would still be a big positive for Canopy Growth as well, and the stock could go up. However, in their most recent earnings call, they announced that their US business was performing really poorly with lower demand and lower sales. On top of that, the CEO is also required to own 5x his base salary in stock, and he currently owns less than 1x. So over the next 4 years, he's going to have to massively increase his holdings in the stock anyways, and he might just be buying to try to reach those requirements. We also have the CEO and the chief commercial officer at Culp Inc. buying the stock. And the CEO's last name is Culp because his dad started the company, which obviously is something that we like to see. However, their earnings estimates have fallen off a cliff, and they spent their entire most recent earnings call whining about demand softness and tariffs. If these insiders would have sold, I probably actually would have shorted the stock because it seems like the stock is really struggling right now. And my hunch is that these small insider purchases were made to try to boost the stock just from a PR standpoint, and it looks like it might have worked as the stock is actually up 5% today. And lastly, there are a couple of massive sales at some companies that you may have seen, but they're in such hot industries at such hot companies that the chance of you getting your face ripped off by the stock continuing to go up if you tried to short it is just way too high to ever try to perfectly time a short on these kind of companies. Fluorocorp has sold $300 million of NuScale power stock in the last week. This stock is up a ton in the last year, and it's certainly going to get crushed if the market turns around. The chance of it just ripping your face off by continuing to go up is just way too high. The other one is Nvidia, where there's now $400 million in sales in the last month, which actually makes them the 9th most sold stock by insiders over the last 30 days. Find all the top insider trades at CEOWatcher.com.